So in terms of the infectiousness, it's very high, that is understood, but definitely we know more than 80% of the people who have the infection are not even showing any signs of, no symptoms absolutely. They are going about normally. There's so many families that we know that entire families infected, but they had absolutely no symptoms and they're out of it after some time. So having said that, generally is the virus moving in that direction of becoming less virulent for human body?
Well, Sadhguruji, the point is every virus mutates, and there is nothing to suggest that it is becoming less virulent or more virulent. It is going through mutations which all viruses go through. The big problem that we have is that, this virus, like all viruses, it is really very lethal to people whose immune systems are compromised, which means they don't have the ability to fight these viruses, and this happens with many viruses. For instance, even in the SARS case, there were a number of fatalities, which was largely to the healthcare workers who did not protect themselves, and many people who were elderly also succumbed to the SARS virus. But fortunately, it hadn't spread too wide because, as I mentioned to you, travel at that time was not as much as it is today. Now, the other thing is that we must understand that this particular virus, if you look at the statistics, you're right, 80% of people have mild or asymptomatic versions of the virus. So it doesn't really affect 80% of the population in a lethal way. Out of the 20%, I would say that 10% show moderate symptoms, but they recover quite easily. In the 10% that remains, it is really 3% who are succumbing. And if you look at the people who are succumbing to this disease, there is also data to show that these are people with comorbidities like diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, pulmonary disease, or these are people who are otherwise immunocompromised. In general, they have weak immune systems, and of course, many of them are old. Because as you know, in Italy, where we had a huge onslaught of deaths in the first phase, 90% of the people who died were above the age of 80. So there's a lot of data to show that by and large, most people in our population will not really have to face any kind of serious infection.
But it is causing various other problems to the entire nation.
Yes, in fact, that's the question I want to ask you, Guruji, because I think what this pandemic has actually done is it has basically completely changed the mental makeup of people. Today, there's a deep-rooted fear psychosis that has set into everyone's mind, saying, is this a Russian roulette where somebody will live when somebody will die? Those are thoughts going in people's minds. Secondly, they want to know, when will we come out of this whole crisis? Will our lives ever be normal? What is going to happen to our future? I mean, this question is being asked by young people, by middle-aged people, by the elderly, saying, will we ever be able to go out? You're going on saying we are vulnerable, we are locked down. Now, even if a vaccine comes, will the elderly be able to be protected? Those kind of questions people are asking, and they're saying our lives are disrupted. And there's a lot of mental health issues that we are seeing today. And I wanted your perspective and your views on how we should deal with this disease, this pandemic.
Definitely, I will explore that dimension of how to handle human psychological struggles that one will go through in a situation like this. But coming to this vaccine aspect, there are many scientific opinions. They are saying there are over 10 varieties of mutations already in the virus. So, if you produce a vaccine, we will have to produce 10 different vaccines and 7 billion people. Is it even practical, I'm asking?
Guruji, that is not how vaccines are produced. Basically, this particular vaccine that is being produced for COVID-19 is based on what we call as the spike protein. The spike protein is the protein with which these coronaviruses enter the body. And the spike protein of COVID-19 is very specific to COVID-19. So what is happening is that they're developing vaccines based on spike protein. It doesn't matter how many
In
mutations
the
you have.
mutations, that won't change?
Yeah, but the mutation does not affect the spike protein because the protein is very, constant. Inside the RNA, you might have a few mutations here and there, which actually doesn't alter too much of how the virus works. But the spike protein is the most lethal part of the virus, and that is not changing. So when most of the viruses are being made using the spike protein, then the chances of the vaccine not working in the way people are thinking about it is not true. The only thing is, every vaccine has to create a certain immune response from the body. And the question being asked is, how strong is that response, and is that response enduring? How long will it be before you can get reinfected with such a virus? That is the question being asked.
So India having a massive capacity to produce vaccines, I think in many ways India holds the answer. If we come up with a vaccine, production and distribution can definitely handled by Indian industries, because we are already manufacturing nearly 70% of the world's vaccine requirement, and that'll be a big possibility here.
Dear friends, thanks for watching. Like, comment and share. Subscribe the channel for more videos like this. Don't forget to hit the bell icon.